But where could such a man have hidden himself? No sooner did I ask myself that than I remember the face which had so frightened me in the top cargo when I had gone for my clothing. It had been a face that I had not recognized. Indeed, it was just that lack of recognition that convinced me that I'd imagined it. In fact, I now realized I must have seen the stowaway. No wonder I did not recognize him. He had been hiding in the hold, which explained Barlow's dire words about the place, as well as the grinning carving. The man sought to scare me from that place. But having arrived at that conclusion, I asked myself this: what was I to do with my discovery? To ask the question was to have the answer: Captain Jaggery. It was to him I owed my allegiance, by custom, by habit, by law. To him I must speak. And the truth was, in addition to everything else, I was now consumed by guilt and terror that I had not told him before of the incident in the top cargo. So it was that by the time I had come full course in my thinking, I knew I mustn't wait a moment longer. I needed to get to Captain Jaggery. Recollected the time, 3 bells of the second dog watch. I knew the captain would most likely be found in the helm. Nervously, I emerged from my cabin and went to the deck in search of him. The first man I saw was Morgan, leaning against the starboard rail. He was a gangly, long-limbed, muscular fellow with a fierce mustache and long hair. As he was one of Mr. Keach's watch, not currently on duty, he should have been among those in the forecastle hammock when I'd been there. I say he should have been because I had not seen his face. His presence was only a surmise. But there he was on deck. Brought to a dead stop, I gazed dumbly at him. He returned and gazed right at me. Surely, I thought, he was there to observe me. For a long moment, we stood looking at one another. I saw no emotion in his face, but what he did next left me with little doubt as to his real intentions. He lifted a hand, extended a silhouette-like forefinger, and drew it across his own neck as if cutting it. A spasm of horror shot through me. He was in the crudest way warning me about what might happen if I took my discovery to the captain. For a moment more, I remained rooted to the spot. Then I turned to lean upon the portside topgallant rail and stared out over into the ocean, trying to recover my breath. Then I had sufficiently steadied my nerves. I turned back cautiously. Morgan was gone, but he had achieved his purpose. I was twice as frightened as I had been when I first stepped upon the Seahawk. Anxiously, I glanced about to see if I was being watched by anyone else, and sure enough, now it was Foley whom I spied atop the forecastle. He was busily slicing a rope. At least that's what he seemed to be doing. The instant I saw him, he looked up and pinioned me with a gaze of blatant scrutiny. Then, quickly, he shifted his eyes away. He, too, was spying on me. Completely unnerved, I retreated to my cabin and bolted the door. The warnings had an effect quite the opposite to what they doubtless intended. More terrified than ever, I now felt that the only person who could help me was Captain Jaggery. But so fearful was I of going on the deck in search of him, I decided to wait in the cabin till he returned, certain that the crew would not dare to pursue me there. Cautiously, I pulled the door open again, poked my head out, and when I saw, to my relief, was no one nearby. I rushed to the captain's door, and out of habit politeness, I knocked. To my indescribable relief, I heard, "Come in." I flung the door open, and Captain Jaggery was looking over some charts. Mr. Hollybrass was at its side. The captain turned about. "Miss Doyle," he said politely, "is there something I can do for you?" "Please, sir." I was finding it difficult to breathe. "I should like a private word." He looked at me quizzically. I had not come to him in agitation before. "Is it important?" "I think so, sir. Perhaps it can wait until—" No doubt it was the distraught expression in my face. He changed his mind. "Come in and shut the door," he said. His manner became alert. Mr. Hollybrass made a move to go. The captain reached out in restraint. "Do you have any objections to Mr. Hollybrass being here?" he asked. "I don't know, sir." "Very well, he shall stay. There's no one I trust more. Now then, Miss Doyle, step forward and say what's troubling you." I nodded, but could only gulp like a fish out of water. "Miss Doyle, if you have something important to tell me, speak it." I lifted my eyes, and the captain was studying me with great intensity. In a flash, I recollected a time when my much-loved brother broke a rare vase, and I, out of a high sense of duty, told on him despite what I knew would be my father's certain fury. So I was fetching a needle for Mr. Ewing. I got out a needle. He returned, somewhat deflated. Then he said, "Where did you find it?" "In the forecastle." "The forecastle?" he echoed, trying to prim my tongue. "Is it your habit to frequent that place, Miss Doyle?" "Never before, sir." "What happened when you went there?" I saw a pistol." "Did you?" I nodded. "Where exactly?" I glanced around, and Mr. Hollybrass's normally red face had gone to the parlor of wet salt, whereas the captain was suddenly flushed with excitement. "Must I say, sir?" "Of course you must, Miss Doyle. Where did you see the pistol?" "In Mr. Ewing's chest, sir." "Mr. Ewing's chest," the captain repeated, exchanging a glance with the first mate as if to affirm something. Then the captain turned back to me. "Anything else?" I bit my lip. "There is more, isn't there?" he said. "Yes, sir." "Out with it." I could not speak. "A what, Miss Doyle?" "A round robin." Now it was the captain who gasped. "A round robin?" he exclaimed. "Are you sure?" "Just as you showed me, sir. I'm certain of it." "Describe it." I did. "And there were names written in there, were there?" "And marks, yes, sir." "How many?" "I'm not certain. Perhaps 5, 6. 6! The captain shouted with a darting glance at Mr. Hollybrass. "A wonder it's not 9. Could you see whose names they were?" "No, sir." "I'm not certain I believe you," he snapped. "It's true," I cried, to prove my honesty. I hurriedly gave him an account of my experience in the top cargo, as well as my conclusion that the ship carried a stowaway. By the time I was done, he was seething, just very angry. "Why the devil did you not tell me before?" he demanded. "I didn't trust my own senses, sir." "After all I've done for you?" He failed to finish the sentence. Instead, he growled, "So be it," and said no more before turning to me and pacing away, leaving both Mr. Hollybrass and me to watch. "Mr. Hollybrass," he said finally. "Sir?" "Call all hands." "Sir, what do you intend to do?" "I intend to crush this mutiny before it starts." So mutiny is like a rebellion. So he wants to crush the rebellion that the crew members are planning on having against Captain Jaggery.